All right, call to order. Please rise. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. All right. Looks like we got a full house tonight. It's good to see everybody here tonight. Let me do a quick roll call. All right. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Stork?
Here.
Commissioner Guschalk?
Here.
Commissioner Spink?
Here.
Commissioner Tysted?
Here.
Commissioner Owens?
Here.
Commissioner Skeet?
Here.
Commissioner Clemens?
Here.
And an individual that we love seeing back in our group tonight, Commissioner Rosenthal.
Here.
All right. Good to have you back, sir.
Good to be back.
Yes, sir. So please let the record show we have 9 in attendance to vote tonight. Okay. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion for the minutes? All right. Let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Guschalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenthal?
Abstain.
Yeah, I was going to say you were out. All right. Secretary's report.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
On your agenda today, you have 2 items on the consent agenda. So, of course, if you approve the agenda, those will automatically be approved. You have 5 subdivision and/or exception items on the regular agenda, as well as 2 rezones and 1 Board of Zoning Appeals variance request. So we will need 7 members to remain once we transition to the Board of Zoning Appeals. That is all we have for you today.
All right, so I have 1 volunteer. Do I have a second volunteer? Now, there's no monetary reason why you can't, I'm just picking. I'm just picking. Okay, so I have 2 volunteers to step out to be down to 7. That work?
I think you'll need 1 more.
Oh, I need 1 more.
Oh, 1 more? I'll take it.
Okay, we're going to be a little lopsided. This whole side of the room is going to step out. Okay. All right, that's fine. I appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Do I have any declarations tonight?
Yes, I will have to abstain on the approval of the agenda. I have conflict on one of the consent agenda items.
Consent agenda? Okay, thank you, sir. All right. One consent agenda items. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Rosenthal. All right, well, with that, do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, sir. Any discussion on the agenda? All right, let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Guschalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenthal?
Abstain.
Yep, thank you. Okay, let's go to the regular agenda. Give me just a second, team. I like to rearrange my book here real quick. Okay, we're on 9 Alpha on your agenda. 9 Alpha. Okay, the Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 25-017 and 018, a preliminary and final plat for Schramm Estates as outlined in the posted agenda. Yeah, that's right. This is not a public hearing item. Planning staff report.
Commissioners, DEV 25-017 and 018 is a preliminary and final plat request for the property located at 14445 170th Street. This property is currently zoned RR 2.5. The applicant is requesting to subdivide this into a 2-lot subdivision. Both parcels are compliant with the zoning district. However, as you can tell, Lot 2, or the larger lot there, is not compliant with the lot depth, lot width standard. So they are therefore asking for an exception from lot depth to lot width. Of course, you'll need a separate motion to make if you want to approve it. Otherwise, as mentioned, this is compliant with the regulations as submitted. Staff did provide a full analysis in its staff report, so if you have any questions, please let us know. The applicant is also in attendance.
Hang on just a second.
Okay.
We weren't ignoring you. We were listening while we were also trying to bring the screen up. There. It'll come on.
Should be right.
We've got no screens up here. No signal.
There we go. Maybe. There we go.
There we is. Came up no signal.
Oh,
This takes a second. Yep, maybe.
there we go.
I'm on it altogether. Yeah, I know.
You can share his.
We need to talk to the commission about that. Mine says no signal.
It takes it a second.
It takes a minute, yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Has everybody got the screens up?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'm sorry. We probably should have checked that before. That's on
Sorry about
us.
that.
That's all right. I was entertaining them with my medical stories.
I
Okay.
thought we were on an austerity program, so I didn't question it.
All right. If you don't mind, would
I
you
will
repeat,
it.
please?
Absolutely.
Thank
Yes.
you so much.
This request is a request for preliminary and final plat approval for the property located at 14445 170th Street. That parcel is zoned RR 2.5, and they are requesting to subdivide it into a 2-lot subdivision. Both parcels are compliant with the underlying zoning district. However, Lot 2 does not comply with the lot width to lot depth standards in the subdivision regulations. So therefore, you will need to grant an exception in order to approve this plat as presented. John also wanted me to remind you that they did apply for an ADU permit for Lot 2. And of course, once they separate this out, they will need to come back in and upgrade that permit to a single-family permit, as mentioned by Kyle Anderson in his email, and that is a condition of approval.
Okay. Yeah, but that comes in later.
Yep, that would
Okay.
be after this if it were to be approved, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Does the applicant wish to speak? All right. Thanks, Joe. Good to see you tonight. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. This time, I'll entertain questions, comments, members of the commission. Okay. In that case, I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception for DEV 07. So we're going to do one for 07 and one for 08. Is that right?
No, the prelim is 017, the final is 018, but there is one exception that you guys have to
That's
approve on
right.
this one.
One's the exception, one is the plat. Thank you. Okay, this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception for DEV 25-017.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I hereby recommend approving an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width ratio in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 25-017/018 as submitted by the application based on a finding that all 3 criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the commissions? Okay. All right. We call roll. Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yes.
Commissioner Gusshott.
Yes.
Commissioner Spink.
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenthal.
Yes.
Okay, let the record show the exception. The motion carried for the exception by a vote of 9-0. Okay. Now I entertain a motion to approve the plat for DEV-25-017 and 018. Final plat for Schramm Estates, as outlined on the posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I find that the subdivision request complies with the zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 25-017-018 based on the recommendations of the planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Thank you, sir. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Gushoff?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tystead?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
And Commissioner Rosenthal?
Yes.
Okay. The motion is carried by a vote of 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than May 28, 2025 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Item agenda, excuse me, item agenda number 9B is in Bravo. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-25-027, a boundary line adjustment, exception for Watson and Miller as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Planning staff report.
All right, case DEV 25027 is a boundary line adjustment request on behalf of the Miller and Watson property. This property might look a little familiar to you. The smaller one, they did come in and get a variance not too long ago to rebuild their house. They are now requesting to add on to their property to make it compliant with the zoning district of RR5. And specifically, the subject properties are 26447 and 26567 187th Street, and both are zoned RR5. However, as you can see in the layout, the boundary line adjustment would make the Watson property, so the smaller lot, non-compliant with the lot width to lot depth. It does not comply with the 1-to-1 ratio. It is wider than it is deep. And in addition to that, the applicant is wishing to follow the existing creek line on their rear property line, which is a lot more breaks in the line than our regulations permit. So in order for them to go with this layout, you would also need to grant an exception from that regulation as well. So you have two exception requests on this one. The applicant did provide narratives for both of those exceptions in the application packet. The applicant agent is also in attendance here tonight. However, staff did review it for compliance with the zoning and subdivision regulations. With the exception of those two items, it is compliant.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak? All right, sir. Is there any other additional information to be presented? All right. Questions and comments from the members of the commission?
My question on this one is, as we go to non-standard lines there, that I know they're all straight, but they're non-standard as far as what problems do we face in the future when Tract A is potentially developed?
Sure. As I mentioned in the staff report, when you follow a natural feature like a creek line, while immediately it might be easy to determine where the property line is based off that creek line, those features do change. Creek lines do adjust flooding can change that. Even just regular rainfall can change a creek line. So in this instance, if that creek line were to change, that property line wouldn't change with it. So, I mean, it might give people a false sense of where their property lines are at in the future.
So does that set up an issue in the future? I mean, if it were to change, if we approve this, and the creek changes course, does this cause us then, the applicant and then the planning commission, to have to readjust those boundaries?
Only if they want to. I mean, their property lines would be the permanent property lines. If there's a dispute over it, they would have to hire a surveyor, most likely to go out and stake it out. But that is one risk you run with following a natural feature like a creek line.
Okay.
Joe, can we just not make one straight line from the corner to the other corner? I mean, when you come back to survey that's a lot of pins and stakes.
Yeah, Joe Herring surveying 315 North Fifth. The pins in the creek will not be set. That is not something we're going to go do. The center line of the creek is the defined line, and all calls say along said center line. If a major storm came through and that line, that creek was adjusted to a one-time flooding event, the boundary line would not change. If that creek moves gradually over time, which most likely it will, your line goes with it. So it says along the creek line. That is the controlling factor. So you really don't have to come back in. Yes, would it cause some discussion in the future? Absolutely, if somebody does come in here, but the ground's really not developable any more than what it is for this 5-acre tract. And the reason for holding it, we didn't want to create a useless remnant of the property either on the east side of the creek or the west side of the creek that neither property owner could get to. So we could go in and just call a distance on the south line to the center line of the creek, call a distance to the north line to the center line, and say along said center line, but that really doesn't define what we had. That's my opinion. Any other questions?
No, I just think you're going to be back.
Yeah.
For that line to move, I don't know if I'll be back.
It just looks like it'd be a whole lot simpler if we just made a straight line from the corner to the corner. But if that's, and I could see that if they're fencing it and you don't want to go on one side of the creek to the other side of the creek with your fence line, you just kind of run the boundary. I get that too, because I got the same kind of goofy deal going on next to me anyway. So
with the exception of the number of adjustments on a boundary line, what was the second thing that?
The lot width.
The lot width.
Dip,
That's
and
right.
It's the
that's
1-to-1.
Right. Yeah.
You guys don't commonly see that, but it is wider than it is deep.
Yeah. Yep. Got it. Okay. Any other questions, comments from members of the commission? And those are the only two things that otherwise you would say your recommendation is to approve.
Right. Those two items require an exception. Otherwise, it's compliant.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove the exception. I'll entertain a motion. The motion is case DEV 25-027 boundary line adjustment exception. So there's two. There's the exception, and then there's the
Irregular shaped.
yeah
Can we do
exception
them both
for the
at
shape.
once? We have to do them separately.
No, we're going to do them separately. There's two. There's two of them. Yep.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I hereby recommend that we approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.d, irregular lot shape in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 25-027, as submitted by the application based on a finding that all three criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have any discussion for the motion on the floor? All right. I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenthal?
Yes.
All right. Let the record show, vote is carried by a vote of 9-0 for the first exception, which is the boundary line. And now we do the adjustment section. I will entertain a motion to approve the exception for the adjustment exemption.
Lot width
right?
to lot depth.
Lot width, lot depth. Yep. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the Planning Commission hereby approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width of the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEB 25-27, as submitted by the application based on a finding that all three criteria for an exception has been met.
All right. I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have any discussion? No discussion. All right, let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschalk,
Yes.
Commissioner Spink,
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet,
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rosenthal.
Yes.
All right, let the record show the lot width, lot depth exception is carried by a vote of 9-0. All right, we go to our third topic. Item 9C is in Charlie. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-25-030 and 031, a preliminary and a final plat for Wren Meadows as outlined in the posted agenda. Am I saying that right? Wren Meadows? Okay. This is not a public hearing. The planning staff will now give a staff report.
All right.
Yes,
Case
ma'am.
DEV 25-030 and 031 is Wren Meadows subdivision. It is a preliminary and final plat request for the property located at 00000 Evans Road. This parcel is currently zoned RR5, and the applicant has subdivided the land into a 3-lot subdivision with all parcels complying with the RR5 underlying zoning district. However, Lot 3, that bottom parcel, again, does not match the lot width to lot depth ratio. It also is wider than it is deep. However, the configuration of the roadway system on that would make it difficult to find another way to subdivide this parcel. The applicant agent is in attendance. He did provide a narrative as part of the application. If you have any questions for staff, our analysis was provided in the staff report.
All right, thank you, Amy. Does the applicant wish to speak? Oh, okay.
That's Joe again. It'd be
All right, all right, thanks, Joe. Any other additional information to be presented? Okay, all right. This time, questions, comments from the members of the commission? All right. I guess they did a great job laying it all out for us. I mean, it's all in there.
I don't know what else you could do with that piece of property.
I mean, it's kind of locked by a roadway there. All right. Well, at this time, I entertain a motion to approve the exception for DEV 25-030 and 031, preliminary and final plat. We've got two. We've got the exception, and then we have the approval of the plat. So this is for the exception.
Nobody? Okay, Mr. Chairman, I hereby approve an exception request from Article 50, Section 40-3I, lot to depth width without finding of fact being met and a major vote or?
Yeah, what you were reading
Oh.
was the
Oh,
case.
well,
Yeah,
hold on. We need to read this one. Mr. Chairman, I hereby approve an exception for Article 50, Section 40.I.3.I, lot depth to lot width ratio in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 25-030-031 as submitted by the applicant based on the finding that all three criteria for an exception have been met.
Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Sorry,
Thank you,
fellas.
Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Owens. Do I have a second? Commissioner
We almost
Tystead is a
united
second. All right. You just wanted to read everything. That's what it was.
Read it
Okay,
all.
so I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion from the commission? This is for the exception. All right, I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Stork.
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschalk.
Yes.
Commissioner Spink.
Yes.
Commissioner Tystead.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenthal.
Yes.
Let the record show the vote is carried by a vote of 9-0. Okay. This time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the plat for DEV-25-030 and 031.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that in the case DEV 25-030/031, that we approve the request for preliminary and final plat based on the factors and the recommendation of planning staff.
Thank you, Commissioner Tystead. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the floor from the commission? All right, I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tystead?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenthal?
Yes.
Let the record show the motion is carried by a vote of 9-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than May 28th of 2025 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Go to 9 Delta in your agenda. 9D is in Delta. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 25-032 and 033. It's a preliminary and final plat for Carolina Wren Estates as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing. Planning staff report.
All right, good evening, gentlemen. The next case is case DEV 25-032 and 033. This is a preliminary and final plat consideration of a property located at 24675 Wolcott Road. The applicants are proposing to subdivide their land into two separate lots, which would be known as Carolina Wren Estates. This property does have two single-family residents on Lot 1. However, one of the houses is a new build, and the second house that is closest to the road is going to be removed. This parcel is located along a state highway, making access limited, which is why there is an access easement created as part of this plat. This This case requires an exception for Lot 2 as it exceeds the lot depth to lot width ratio by approximately 345 feet. The exception is based upon 3 criteria needed for the approval, and those can be found within your staff report. As a reminder, we need a motion for the exception before the approval of before the disposition of the plats. If the exceptions were to be approved, it would be in conformance with regulations. Staff is supportive of this request. As of a note, there was a clerical error within the agenda packets on the proposed motions in the staff reports. They have been updated, and those are found within your agenda packets that are up at the tables. The applicant is here to discuss the request further and answer any questions you may have. With that being said, I am open to any questions you might have.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Josh. Questions, comments, members of the commission?
I didn't see on the renderings or the drawings where the route where the one route onto the state road is going to be, and where the easement then is going to go.
So the access easement so the entrance is approximately right here where the plat is, but the access easement to gain down to lot 2 will be going through here. If I were to zoom in, you would see that I think it's a 20 or 30 foot access easement that goes along the front part of there.
Okay, that doesn't run through the current existing structure?
No, it does not. So the one house is approximately back here, and then the existing house that's going to be removed is approximately right about there.
Right, because you can see it from the road.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the exception, lot width depth exception for DEV 25-032 or 033 and 033.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I hereby recommend that we approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width ratio in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 25-032/033 as submitted by the application based on a finding that all 3 criteria for an exception have been met.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Do I have any discussion from the commission? All right, I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Guschalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
And Commissioner Rosenthal?
Yes.
Records show lot width depth exception is carried by a vote of 9-0. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the final plat for DEV, case DEV 25-032 and 033.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I find that the subdivision request complies with zoning and subdivision regulations and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV 25-032/033 based on the recommendations of the planning staff and the findings set forth in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion from the commission on the motion? Okay. All right. I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Guschalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
And Commissioner Rosenthal.
Yes.
All right, let the record show. The motion is carried by a vote of 9-0 for the final plat. 9E. Hang on, let me see. We got two more.
Yeah.
We got three more. Yeah, 12A. Yeah, we got three more. Right? So, yeah, we're at this one right now. We got to get to E. Yep. Okay, we're at 9E as an echo in your agenda. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 25-035. This is a boundary line adjustment exception for Limestone Land Company as outlined in the posted agenda. It's not a public hearing. Planning staff report.
All right, gentlemen, this case is case DEV 25-035. The applicants are requesting an exception from the zoning subdivision regulations of Article 50, Section 40.3I. That's the lot depth to lot width, and then also Article 50, Section 40.3D, which is the lot line design of a property located along 0000 Tonganoxie Drive. The applicants are proposing to do a boundary line adjustment to where Track B is obtaining more acres. Track B's road frontage is off of Tonganoxie Drive, making it exceed the lot depth to lot width requirement. Track B also requires the exception for the lot line design as the track has a lot line that is greater than a 45-degree angle. Further analysis of those exceptions can be found within your staff report. As of a note, both of these exceptions were granted when the track split was approved back in March of 2024. The exception is based upon three criteria needed for approval, and those can be found within the staff report. If the exceptions were to be approved, it would be in conformance with regulations. Staff is supportive of the request. Also, another note, same thing with the last one, there was the clerical error. The updated proposed motions are within your agenda packets up there. The applicant is here to discuss the request further and answer any questions. With that being said, I am open to questions you may have.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak? Any other additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. Questions, comments from the members of the commission? So we have the exception. We have two exceptions for tonight on this case, DEV 25-035. Boundary line adjustment exception. Lot line difference. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I hereby recommend an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3 Delta, lot line design in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 25-035 as submitted by the application based on the finding that all three criteria for an exception have been met.
Thank you, Commissioner Clemens. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Bailey. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the commission? Okay. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschall?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes?
And Commissioner Rosenthal?
Yes.
All right, let the record show. The first exception is approved by a vote of 9-0. It is carried by a vote of 9-0. Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the second exception, case DEV 25-035, boundary line adjustment exception for the Limestone Land Company, as posted.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion I hereby approve an exception from Article 50, Section 40.3.I, lot depth to lot width ratio in conformance with the zoning and subdivision regulations for case DEV 25-035 as submitted by the application based on finding that all three criteria for an exception have been met.
Thank you,
Didn't we
Commissioner
just do
Bailey.
that one?
I'm sorry?
Didn't we just do that one?
We just did
The
Previous.
Lot depth to lot width. We haven't done the boundary line.
No,
yet.
we haven't done the boundary line yet. This hadn't been flipped over
I
yet.
thought we did that.
We just
first.
did the boundary line.
Wait, did we do the boundary line
We
first?
one
did
was
the boundary line one
First,
Yeah.
now we're doing the line depth
was
width.
the
Yeah,
first one.
yeah.
All right.
This is what happens when you get the same ones back to back to back with
back
two
to back.
exceptions, two exceptions, two exceptions. That's all right.
I'll second.
It's all Joe. This is all Josh's fault. Let that record show. Put that in record.
Sounds great.
Okay, so this is the lot depth width. We did the boundary line on the first one, so thank you, Commissioner Bailey. And I had a second from Commissioner.
There you go.
Okay, Commissioner Clemens, got it. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay, I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens?
Yes.
And Commissioner Rosenthal?
Yes.
Let the record show the exception is carried. The motion is carried by a vote of 9-0. All right. Now we're going to item 9F, as in Foxtrot in your agenda. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 25-022, a rezoning request from RR 2.5 to RR1. I'm sorry, to R1 43, as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Planning staff report.
I will make one correction or one note on there. The public hearing items, since the Board of County Commissioners changed theirs to 5 minutes, the public comments would be limited to 5 minutes instead of the 3 minutes.
Okay.
As far as the staff report, this case is DEV 25-022. It's a rezoning request for a property located at 19701 163rd Street from RR 2.5 to R143. The future land use for this property is 3 units per acre. The provided concept plan is to propose a 2-lot subdivision where the applicants are only requesting to rezone a lot 2. The staff reviewed this request based off the 7 golden factors, which is needed in a rezoning request. Those factors and analysis of those factors can be found on page 2 of your staff report. The request is something that staff would not typically support, as it would be considered spot zoning. The recommendation staff made to the applicants was to rezone the entire parcel, which is something the staff would support. The applicant's agent is here for questions. With that being said, I am open to questions you may have.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Okay, so the on top of everything else that's listed, the public comment portion is now limited to 5 minutes per person. That was a change we made a couple of months back, I think. And
That
so,
is correct, yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you for making that change to our reports. All right. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. In this case, it'd be one time. You come up and give your name and address. This is necessary since this public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening. Crystal Wilth, Atlas Land Consulting, 14500 Parallel. Avenue in Basehor, Kansas. I'm here on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Steve and Diana Tuttle. They are requesting a one-lot rezoning here. It is just over an acre. 1.43 acres, I think. Certainly, we understand staff's recommendation that the entire thing be rezoned. However, that's just really not desirable to the applicant. They own that property to the north also, which is all farmland. They hay all of this. They also live a couple of houses to the south. I appreciate staff report and their willingness to work with us, but I do want to point out just a couple of things. Item 2 says zoning and uses of nearby property. It states that most of the adjacent parcels are residential and agricultural in nature. However, adjacent zoning, all adjacent properties are zoned RR 2.5 with a proposed rezoning request could be considered spot zoning, and they say that we don't meet this criteria. I would certainly disagree with that. This would continue to be a rural residential residence, just like everything in the area. The second item is number 4, extent to which removal of the restriction will detrimentally affect nearby properties. They state that it is unlikely to negatively impact. As the proposed rezoning remains rural residential, as I previously stated. However, it is considered spot zoning, which is something staff does not typically support. Just because staff considers this to be spot zoning does not mean that that would detrimentally impact the neighborhood. This property is fenced on 3 sides. That's where the proposed property lines are going. Again, this would just be a regular old residential, rural residential house, like you see all up and down that road. Mr. and Mrs. Tuttle just want to retain as much farmland as they possibly can to continue doing what they've always done there for a very long time. Mr. and Mrs. Tuttle are here. If you have any additional questions that they could possibly answer, otherwise I'm happy to stand for questions.
Why just a small section? I mean, are you busting this off for grandkids, children, friends of the family?
I'm Stephen Tuttle. I live at 19809 163rd Street in Basehor. And we purchased a property. We own the 40 acres, approximately 40 north of there. And when Mrs. McDowell passed away, we purchased a property from the family. We're going to sell the house. All right. And I've already got 2 houses. I don't need a 3rd house. I got tired of going over to the house 2 times a day this winter and checking the furnace and things like that. But so we just wanted to sell that house in about 1.5 acres where the existing fence line is. There's an existing barbed wire to the south, to the west, and to the north. So that would keep that all intact. And takes me about an hour to mow the grass. There's a lot of people that don't want a lot of mowing. But and then we're going to keep the rest of the land in agriculture use. We cut hay off of the property. But we purchased it mainly so we didn't have a bunch of houses in our backyard. So, thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. Hang on a minute. You can't go anywhere. Don't get comfortable. You get to come on back up here because you haven't allowed us to have questions for you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right. And you've been sitting down for quite a while waiting your turn.
Yeah.
So, all right. Commissioners, questions for the applicant?
What's your residence again? You said 1-8?
I live at 19809 163rd
Okay,
Street.
so
you're
that complex.
Where all that farm is?
Yep, that's
Imagine
it.
that. A big farm right there.
That's the Big Tuttle Farm.
So you're just selling off to sell off the house?
Just basically the house in the front yard.
That's it?
Yep.
And it's where I guess you said her name was Ms. McDowell. I'll just say McDowell. I
Right.
thought that's what I heard you say. So basically, Ms. McDowell had the barbed wire fence put in
Yes.
around her house, and
Yes.
the rest of it she had cows and whatever wandering around. So
Well-
now you want to basically keep the barbed wire fence just the way it is, which
Yes.
is sectioned off at 1.5 acres,
Yes.
and you want to sell the house and that inside that barbed wire fence
Yes.
and make that somebody else's nightmare.
Yes.
But it was real interesting how you also threw that pun to prevent all that land developing into a neighborhood all around me. Interesting. Interesting.
I've lived at my address since 1965, so I've seen a lot of changes, and road went from dirt to asphalt. So,
All right. All right. All right. Questions for the applicant? Commissioners? Questions? Okay. All right. Now we'll let you go back and sit down.
all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. You don't get to sit down yet. Do we have any questions for her, commissioners? Any questions for her? Okay. It's good to see you again. Not so much in formal terms all the time, though. Okay. All right. So that was the applicants. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request. Okay. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. All right. Any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for petition protesting the decisions of the Planning Commission to be filed. The petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Questions or comments from the members of the commission? Discussion.
Josh, could you explain again what your objection to this is?
So instead of rezoning the entire parcel and just having a lot within a singular, I guess, the parcel, it could be it could be considered spot zoning, and that's something that we typically don't support.
This is a 2.5 acre.
1.44.
Yes, but the area is 2.5 acre lots. So if they made that a 2.5 acre lot, would there be any objection?
So I think with a lot of the other reasons for the rezoning of there, if they were to try to make it into a 2.5 acre zoning, they would have to have the 200 feet of road frontage also with there. And I don't believe that there would be enough road frontage between both of the parcels or both of the lots in order for them to accommodate both of it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, but it looks like we'd still have problems with the distance as well as then we'd have a lot width to lot depth variance that we'd have to discuss. And then the other issue remains I have two issues. One is the spot zoning because it opens up to further things of that nature. And the second is that the future land use plan supports at least R143 because it's supposed to be, if I remember correctly, mixed residential. Or three per acre. So we would be, it's currently RR 2.5.
Look how close we are to that.
Yeah,
All that.
I mean, it's right down there at the corner. Growth is coming.
We're 10 years away. It'll be there.
If that long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Maybe.
I don't know. If he keeps it in his family.
Well, that's my next question.
This is the highest density that is the county.
Is your son going to take over the farm?
Well, I mean, that's irrelevant to what we're talking about now.
Long-term plans. I mean,
all right.
If you have children, they might want the farm.
I'm a first-generation farmer. Like I said, I lived there since 1965, and myself and my wife's grandniece is taking over the operation.
So she will keep the farm.
Yes.
But
yeah, she's 17 and a half years old, and she's just finished planting the last of our soybeans the other day, and she's all for taking over the farm. So we keep cattle at our property in the winter to cab them out, and then the property that we purchased is used for hay.
But us going to an R143 does not deny you the use of the land for agriculture. Is that correct, Josh or Amy? I mean, that doesn't deny him the ability to use the land for agriculture. It's currently rural residential 2.5, and he can use it for agriculture. If we were to not approve the spot zone and just zone the entire piece to R143, it doesn't affect his use of the land, it only affects the future. If he decides, or his heir decides to develop it. Is that correct? Am I getting that right, I think?
That is correct, sir. Just because they're, that if the whole parcel would be zoned as R143, that doesn't necessarily mean that they can't continue to. They could still continue to use it as agricultural purposes. That's more of the taxing elements behind everything.
Correct.
So if I can hop in,
Please.
Traditionally, when we see densities like this, we'll see them in a larger parcel, like we're discussing now. The fact of the matter is, the future land use plan does call for it to be a higher density. You do have proximity to this area that's higher density than 1 acre. So logically, if something happens on this parcel, it'll come in for a replat and a rezone. So at the end of the day, from a staff standpoint, we try to discourage spot zoning, which is one component of what you see here. A part of spot zoning, the definition of spot zoning, is not being compliant with the future land use plan. This is compliant with the future land use plan. Sure. But is it arbitrary? Well, are any lots in the general area 1 acre, the approximate size that they're proposing here? Well, there are some in Baser. I can't remember what that footage is away, but it's not miles away. It's certainly in proximity. So from a staff standpoint, we're recommending that they go with the 2.5 for the reasons that Josh stated, because it's a singular parcel. However, it won't have any major impact to the parcels around it, and logically it will develop in a higher density because of its proximity to Baser. And it's probably going to happen sooner than later.
Sure it is.
So I stand on the recommendation. However, should you go against that recommendation, we certainly understand the reasoning for it. Because again, you have proximity of similarly zoned lots, and even though it's a single lot, logically it's going to develop in a larger area of higher density. And it wouldn't preclude them from using it as agricultural ground, whether it's zone 143 or not.
Approving it allows him to do what he wants to do, but also maintains the option for further development at a higher density later, whenever the annexation, because the one designation is the highest density that the county can do.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? Okay. This is one and one act only. This is a rezoning request. So I will entertain a motion on this rezoning request from RR 2.5 to R1 43. The case is DEV 25-022.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the rezoning request complies with the golden factors and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV-25-022 based on the recommendations of planning staff and the findings as set forth in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second to approve the zoning request. Any discussion on the floor? All right, I'll call roll. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Stork?
Yes.
Commissioner Gutschall.
Yes.
Commissioner Spink.
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens.
Yes.
Commissioner Rosenthal.
Yes.
All right. Let the record show the motion is carried by a vote of 9-0 for the rezoning request. Okay. Last one, and then we'll adjourn and go into the other case. All right, this is case 9G as in golf. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 25-038. It is a rezoning request from RR5 to RR 2.5 as outlined in your posted agenda. This requires a public hearing, and the public comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Planning staff report.
All right. Case DEV 25038 is the Brightenthal rezone. They're requesting to rezone the southern portion of the property located at 15212 174th Street from RR5 to RR 2.5. So as you're looking at that map, it's everything south of Linwood Road that they are requesting to rezone. This property is designated as residential 2.5 acre minimum as part of the future land use map, as you can see there. Their intention, or based off the concept that they provided, is to split off a 2.5 acre parcel in the southwest corner of that acreage. We did send it out to the various departments. Because Linwood Road is a state highway, KDOT did comment they just wanted to clarify that access from Linwood Road would be unlikely, otherwise would be heavily regulated. Staff did provide an analysis for you. The one staff felt that did not meet was character of the neighborhood because the surrounding parcels are 4.4 acres to over 149 acres. However, staff did feel that it met all the other factors and therefore is recommending approval of this request, primarily because it does conform to the comprehensive plan and it does abut an existing RR 2.5 zoning district. So if you have any questions, please let me know, but the applicant agent is in attendance today.
All right. Thank you. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition, please give your name and address. When you first introduce yourself to speak, this is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant come forward? Thank you, Joe.
Joe Herring Surveying, 315 North Fifth. Staff covered this very well. The main concept is it does meet the comprehensive plan and it does abut 2.5 zoning to the south. So it fits everything other than most of the tracts out there are of larger nature. They are under 5 acres at 4.4. So it necessarily has to be 2.5 acres. But the family owns a significant amount of land out there and they would like to preserve most of it for farming right now and then future for when Mesa and Linwood connect and become a big city.
So they're only asking for the area south of Linwood Road.
Correct.
And the area north will remain in RR5?
Will remain RR5. It's not that it's a lot of road frontage up there on that north one.
Yeah.
It's more conducive to some higher density zoning possibly in the future, but that's quite a ways down the road for Baser to get
And the
there.
future use plan is 2.5.
Right.
Is that showing that it's in the floodplain?
There is some area, I believe, that is in the floodplain here. Actually, there is none, no. Which section?
That's just a layer that's turned.
Yeah, sorry, the
Okay.
layer is showing the floodplain, but it's showing as Zone X, so it is not within a regulatory floodplain.
And they understand the requirement that the KDOT has put on that if they develop it into 2.5, if they further develop it, that they probably will not get an entrance off K32?
Absolutely, yes. The if they want to go for an access up there in the future, that will be a KDOT process, not this level.
Okay.
And then that section off 2.78 acres is just kind of what their desired
Yes.
area to develop is right now.
Yes, that's what they would like to split off for their grandson. And that's it.
Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, we will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request. Okay. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Okay. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
None? Okay. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Are there questions and comments? Members of the Commission? All right. I will entertain a motion on this request, a rezoning request, case DEV 25-038.
Mr. Chairman, I find that the rezoning request complies with the golden factors and move to recommend approval to the Board of County Commissioners of the request as outlined in case DEV-25-038 based on the recommendations of the planning staff and the findings set forth in the staff report.
I second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion on the motion? All right. Let me call roll. Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart.
Yes.
Commissioner Guschalk.
Yes.
Commissioner Spink.
Yes.
Commissioner Tysted.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Skeet.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens.
Yes.
And Commissioner Rosenthal.
Yes.
All right. Let the record show the motion is carried by a vote of 9-0 on the rezoning. All right. This time, we will adjourn from the Leavenworth County Planning Commission mission meeting. All right, y'all ready?
Yeah.
Y'all ready? All right. Board of Zoning Appeals. Let me call roll real quick. So we have Commissioner Major, we have Commissioner Bailey, we have Commissioner Guschalk, we have Commissioner Spink, we have Commissioner Tysted, we have Commissioner Skeet, and we have Commissioner Clemens. I'm missing Skeet.
Skeet.
Okay.
Clemens and Rosenthal.
Skeet is gone. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But if you want me to go, I can.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have Commissioner Clemens. Okay, so we have 7 of us. That's correct. Okay. All right. Okay. Our regular agenda case is DEV 25-028. It's a variance. Schultz is the name of the variance. Leavenworth County Board of Zoning Appeals will now consider case DEV 25-028 variance request from Article 20, Section 6, rear yard setback for accessory structures of the zoning and subdivision regulations. This requires a public hearing. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes per person. Planning staff report.
Right, gentlemen, the case right now is case DEV 25-028. It's a variance request from the zoning and subdivision regulations of Article 20, Section 6, which is the rear yard setback requirement for accessory structures. The property is located at 16042 Linwood Road. The accessory structure on the property is approximately 10.5 feet from the rear yard property line. This was noted during the preliminary and final plat of the Crosby Addition number 2 when that was reviewed. Based off of the information we have, the applicants purchased a building permit in 2015 to build their accessory structure, and at that time it appeared to be in compliance with regulations. Then between 2021 and 2022, an addition to the structure was completed without a building permit, which caused the accessory structure to be out of compliance. As a note, if this board were to disapprove the request, this parcel would just be considered a non-compliant and not entitled to building permits parcel. The plain staff's policy is that we don't make recommendations or approval or disapproval. We just provide the analysis of the 5 statutory factors. Your decision is based upon whether a request meets or does not meet each of the 5 statutory requirements. If it is determined that one of the 5 requirements are not met, then the request does not pass. The 5 requirements are identified on page 2 of your staff report. The applicant's agent is here to discuss the variance request further and answer any questions you might have. With that being said, I'm open to questions you might have for me.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address before you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. This public comment portion of the hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Crystal Wilth, 14500 Baser, Kansas, 66007, Atlas Land Consulting. How many addresses in my head? This is the request that we talked about last month when we brought forward the plat. Thank you for making approval on that, by the way. Obviously, this is over the building setback line. It is. There's no two ways about it, right? That being said, this isn't injurious to the neighboring properties. The intent of the zoning regulations is to ensure that buildings are not built over the property line. It's not built over the property line. The property owners are aware that in the future they would have to get building permits if they were to ever try to add on to this. It cannot encroach any further. We understand that fully. This is truly a case where we're going to ask for forgiveness. We are very sorry that this happened. It was not purposeful. They thought that they were meeting the setback. Obviously, during the platting process, it was determined that was not the case. Again, we don't believe this goes against the spirit of the zoning regulations. We don't believe that this is going to negatively impact the neighbors. The only way to bring this into conformance would be to remove the structure, which would obviously be a significant hardship upon the property owner. It would not be beneficial to anybody. So we would recommend, I don't make recommendations anymore, do I? We would request that you approve this. I'll answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Commissioners, questions for the applicant? All right, Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman.
Yes, sir. Oh. Did you have a question for me, or did you have a question for her?
For her.
Okay.
I understand the building and the add-on to the back of the property. What is this? Looks like a pool from my picture. What is that to the left of the house?
Yes, it's a pool.
Talking about right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a pool.
They own all that land. You're just seeing a zone.
So the property line, since the plat was just approved by the Board of County Commissioners, I think on the 23rd of April, something to that effect, the property lines have not changed on there just yet. For one, just because the plat actually has not been recorded just yet either. So
it's not over the property line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they own all that, I think. Right? That they own all that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Man, if that's concrete, there's a lot of concrete there. I don't know. That's an overview of white, and if that's concrete, holy cow, I hope he owns a concrete company. That is a lot of concrete. Okay, questions? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposition of this request? In favor or opposition of this request? Does the board have any further questions or needed clarification from the applicant?
So just to clarify, if we disapprove it, then the building stays, obviously, but they're not allowed to get any more building permits on the land automatically without coming back to the board. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So we would have a status of parcel letter within their folder stating that it would be a non-compliant and not entitled to building permits parcel. That's really all what it means. If it were to be disapproved.
So the folks, I'm looking at the photo you have now, and based on this photo, if I was just to go north of this photo, that doesn't mean that's in accordance to map. It could be east or west, really, on the map. But just for the principle of the way we're looking at it right now, north, the property owners of all that farmland, I think you said, have
this
part?
No, they don't own this part. What they do, they own all this right here, and then I want to say, no.
And all that right there to your left.
The line came across like approximately right there, and it comes up.
Oh, okay. But the farmer here, what we said, they don't own that. They didn't have a problem with that building? Is that what you said in your comments? No one has a problem with that building being right on the property line?
I don't believe our office has received any comments from adjoining.
That's okay. All right, I misunderstood you. I thought that's what you said. The landowners to the north had no problem with the building being right up against the property line.
There's also a tree line right there, so they probably don't even see it much.
Yeah, it's probably a barbed wire fence or something because it's a farm. Okay. All right. Okay. The last question I asked was if the board had any further questions or needed clarification from the applicant. We're still at that point. Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, sir. Is there any other additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Questions, comments from the members of the commission? Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this request. The motion is to consider the case DEV 25-028. It's a variance request from Article 20, Section 6, which is a rear yard setback for accessory structures for the rezoning subdivision regulations.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion that we hereby approve a variance from Article 20, Section 6, rear yard setback for accessory structures for case DEV-25-028, as submitted by the application based on a finding that all 5 criteria for a variance has been met.
Thank you, Commissioner Bailey. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Rosenthal, second. Discussion on the motion to approve the variance. None? All right. I'll call roll. Commissioner Major? Yes. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioners, here we go. I got to go way over here. Commissioner Guschalk?
Yes.
Sorry, I got to go over here to my left side now. Commissioner Spink?
Yes.
Commissioner Tystead?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens? Commissioner Rosenthal?
Yes.
All right. I didn't miss anybody. Okay. Let the record show that the motion is carried by a vote of 7-0. At this time, I'd like to adjourn the Board of County Commissioners. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Meeting is adjourned.